small one, but now I'm scared. Looking at you, trying to see your stalling. Ooh, one hesitant step ahead. You're another small one, but now you're scared. Looking at you, trying to see where you're crawling out. Emergency, oh.
Our next speaker is Joao, who is probably one of those speakers who had the longest trip here. He is coming from Brazil, so you know, samba and sorry. And he's going to elaborate on something he started yesterday as a lightning talk at Rails Israel. So, Israel's. And this is going to be the long version. And since it was quite interesting yesterday, I hope you'll enjoy this talk as well. So please give a hand to Joao.
Hey people, what's up? Well, I've been here to talk to you about rankings and more specifically about how we are doing it wrong. I was already introduced, but my name is João Moura. This is how you can find me on the internet and social networks and all this kind of thing. So make yourself comfortable to add me. I'm from Brazil, and I have been a lot of conference on the last years, and sometimes as speaker and sometimes as attendee. And every time that I say I'm from Brazil, the people start asking about samba, about trees, about lakes, animals, and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, football too. But actually, I'm from São Paulo, and São Paulo is the largest city in Brazil, and not only in Brazil, but in the whole southern hemisphere. It has a lot of buildings and traffic, 'cause it's like 22 million of persons in one city. So, as you can see, there is not a lot of lakes or trees. But well, it's okay. It's a really nice place. I strongly recommend you to drop by if you're going to Brazil. Nowadays, I'm working on a Brazilian startup called Palpiteiros. It's a soccer social network. We actually, one of our sponsors is the Neymar. You might know it. And they're really trying to make great things around Brazil and maybe soon around the world. I'm also a writer of Ruby source, so you might read something that I have already wrote in there. I try to publish as many articles as possible, but I have a lot of other work to do, so you might want to read something. I kinda also have this base code company that I use to side project. I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the talk. But you guys must have been wondering why I have made all this trip, literally half of the word to here, just to talk about rankings, right? It was supposed to be simple. You were supposed to already know it and to use it. So the first thing that I would like to answer here right now is why. That would be the first question. So why talking about rankings, where rankings are being used, and how they are being used? This is the most important questions. I have been working a lot of consultancies, startups, agencies on the past few years, and I have worked in a lot of products. And all products that I have worked on, all of them had at least one rank implementation. Most of the times it's binded to a gamification context, but I have also seen it on a relevance of products, relevance of articles, and all this kind of stuff. So it suddenly became one of the most used features around the applications that I have seen. And of course, that the most of the time it's tied to gamification, and gamification is one of the world trending marketing techniques that are really spreading. So one thing that we must keep in our mind is that nowadays software became really important. Actually, everything is software nowadays. Independent of which market are we talking about, as the education marketing or the health marketing and all these different kind of markets, software is being accepted in all of them and being used and being really important. So we have all this new context where we have younger entrepreneurs that are developing new applications to young audiences. And this is why gamification are becoming so useful and so common. Because in this whole new context, there is no space for the old-fashioned way of marketing and old-fashioned way of rule companies and all this kind of stuff. The only way that it's been, the only way that it's we can innovate on this new era is starting new things. And gamification is one of these new techniques that are being applied to all products around the world. I have here two research from Gartner Research. I don't know how many of you may have heard about it. They are kind of a huge company. I think they're based on US, but I'm not sure. The first research say that over 70% of the 2,000 global organizations will have at least one gamified application. We are talking about 70% in 2013. And this is cool, this is good, but the problem is the next research. Next research say that the same companies, 80% of it will fail due to poor design. The people are just thinking that these techniques, these new techniques are doing magic. They're not thinking about architecture, about design, how they should implement it on their applications. And that's the main problem about it. Ranking is one of the main features related to gamifications that I have seen, and if it's wrong, it can really have high and painful consequences to your application. Well, the first thing here that I would like to do is establish a common ground. So let's start defining what is the objective of a ranking. If I could, and I did, define ranking in two words, it would be order and distinguish. Every time that we are applying a ranking or applying a ranking in our application or in anything, we are always looking through order of the source. The most of times order users or other articles or other products, but not only order. We want to distinguish them. We want to look to the first user and the second one, and we want to see the difference between them to treat them differently. This is all the rankings is about. So indeed, when you apply rankings, what we want is to extract a factor, and this factor express how skilled and how relevant this research is. And this is what we want. We want to know how great this user is on my game, how great this user is on display, or how important this article is, or how important this product is. This is the factor that we are looking for, right? So the basic behavior would be like this. We have a behavior, and this behavior will determine a ranking position, and depending on the ranking position, we will treat each resource differently with a different relevance. And this is how it should work. And it seems magical, right? But here's where the problem lives. What has happened is they're having the wrong relevance. We are not measuring the real skill of a user, the real relevance of our article of a product. I have a little example that might make it a little bit clearer to all of you. Let's imagine that Chuck Norris comes in your website, and he's engaged by a gamification implementation, and he says, well, I want to be the best user ever. And what are the context in your application is that you already have 3 freaking users that are playing your applications for a whole year, and they have a lot of points and a lot of mats and all this kind of thing. So let's imagine that Chuck Norris comes in this scenario, and he tried to get on top of the ranking, but hey, let's talk serious here. How is the possibility that he has to get on the top of the ranking despite of the fact that he is Chuck Norris? Well, it's quite impossible, right? We are certainly doing something wrong here, and we are not even worrying about it. Everything that we are saying to our users is, well, deal with it. It might seem not so much to worry about, like, all right, but it's just a ranking position. but we must to understand that actually it has consequences. It's quite different. It's not a ranking position. You're screwing up all your gamification implementation, all your application with one simple feature and one simple mistake. Actually, rankings are made to engage your users, but because the humans have a behavior, a usual behavior. But when you do not give the opportunity to a user show how good it is, how good it can be, and how can improve and show himself in your application, you're actually saying that you are not welcome here. And then rankings that were made to engage your user will start to make your users like, wow, I don't want to come here to this application anymore because I will never get on top of this gamification. And well, I want to use another thing. So you have higher and painful consequences for a simple and wrong implementation. And this happens because, as I said, the humans have this behavior that's about prove themselves. Everybody wants to prove how good it can be and how good he is. And we are not measuring this right now. And this scenario, we was talking about Chuck Norris. He would never get on the bottom of this ranking. So the problem indeed is that we are not measuring the skill. What we are measuring is the historic. We are measuring how many plays or how many matches this user have played. This is what I'm measuring, not about the results or how good this user actually is. Well, it might be pretty simple and pretty child's play, but actually it isn't. Ranking has been used in the most of the big corporations around the world. You have it on Microsoft, on Sony, on Google, on Wikipedia. All those companies are working on rankings implementations and different solutions for this kind of problem. And alright, now you already know that we have a problem indeed, but it's possible to fix it. And the answer, of course, is possible. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And to solve it, we are going to use algorithms. Here's a painful part. Every time that I go in any place around the world and I talk about algorithms, developers start to cry. It's like such a painful word, and it shouldn't be, because it's quite simple. I have a small and simple definition of what algorithm is. Algorithm is a finite sequence executed mechanically. It's the most basic stuff ever. We shouldn't be afraid to use it. You should use it because it's our friend and it's here to help us. And one of the first algorithms that comes in about ranking was ELO rating. I don't know how many of you have already heard about ELO rating. Please raise your hand. All right, we have 3 people here. ELO rating was developed and is largely used on chess championships and chess mats. It measures the skill of a chess player, but it's quite good on it. It is still being used a lot around the world, and it works pretty well. Here's a basic example. I don't know if you can see it. So a user have initial rating, and basically every game that he plays, he will update this rating according of the result, if it was a win or a lose. But the most interesting thing is that when a chess player are looking for a new challenge, what the systems would look like is for another player that have their rating closer or equal the first one. So it would be the most challenging match between the both users, and the both would feel motivated to play this match. It's quite amazing, but the problem is you take a lot of maths to get some precision when you're talking about libido racing. So as your number the maths getting raised, the precision also will raise, and once that it have really established the precision, you just suffer small updates on your skill. But the problem is that it takes so many maths to it get precise that it's not worth when you're talking about a dynamic context like a web app. You don't want just to know what the skill of the user. You want to know it as fast as possible with the less interactions as possible. Well, in this whole context of doesn't have a great ranking implementation, one company tried to innovate, and this company was Microsoft. And yeah, Microsoft. Uh, well, Microsoft really innovated and surprised me on this. What they made, they invested in it because of Xbox. The thing is, on the beginning, they let all the game factories produce their own rankings and their own games by then. So, hey, make yourself comfortable and develop what you want. But it just started to get really messy. Our games have these different rankings and this different sheet that are really bothering all the players. So what they did is they put the Microsoft research team together with the Xbox team and came with this awesome algorithm called TrueSkill. How many of you have already heard about TrueSkill? Nobody. All right. The best definition of TrueSkill is illustrating on steroids. Why I say that? Because it's amazing, freaking amazing. What they have found is that the rating by itself that doesn't mean anything. The rating is just a number, but it's composed by two main parts, two main values. Those values would be skill and distrust. So, so what it means? It means that the rating, what would be your average value, would be composed of your real ability and how much the systems believe that this ability is right. And this is what compose your rating number. How it works. Every time that a user play a game or have a challenge, it will update both the skill and the distrust. So I show a little example here. First, without any algorithm. Imagine this scenario. We have two players. This first player, it's the best player ever. He has been playing your application since the beginning, and he have a lot of points. He just won. He wants for everybody that have played against us. But the second one have lost all matches until now. They haven't won one. But when the second one playing against the first one, let's imagine that the second one win this match. The most of people would expect something like this. So the first user will lost a lot of points because he lost to a really bad user, and the second user would won a lot of points because he won from the best user ever. But let's think about it just for a minute. It doesn't seem quite right. What's the probability of the second users really won the first one? It's almost known. It shouldn't happen. So what it would happen if we was implementing TrueSkill is that the second user would won, so he would get his skill raised, but the systems wouldn't believe that this match was real. He thinks that maybe an external factor have influenciated the result of this match. So the distrust will also raise and will push this user down, and it will regulating him for not getting too much points. This is basically idea of how it should work. The real great part of it is that it can be applied just on games. It can be applying anything that you want. All you have to do is define that you have a resource, then you have some kind of challenge that represents a match, and it will update the relevance and the distrust of this resource. So we can put here products, for example, or articles, and the challenge would be open an article. And this would update the relevance of this article and also the distrust and this relevance. Everything that you would have to do is define what is a win, what will be a loss, and how you're gonna measure difficult. So open an article is a win, and the difficult will be measured by where this article is displayed. So if it's on top of the page, it's quite easily to click, but if on the bottom of it, it's more difficult. People will just click it if it was really interesting. The problem about TrueSkill is that it's patented, because it's Microsoft. So you should not and you cannot use. But then I came in with this open source project called Sigma. Sigma is a rank implementation for Ruby on Rails applications that use Active Record. I cannot use the exactly math behind TrueSkill, but I can use the concepts behind it, and that's what I did. I implement the context behind the TrueSkills on this gem that will take in consideration the skill of user, the distrust, the expectation of a result, and also the assertiveness of the systems on the expectations. So it might seem a little bit complex, but it really have really great results. I have here an example of Sigma working. It's actually one of the specs of the gem. And what I do here is I grab 4 users and make them play against each other 100 times. So the first users always won the second one always won the third one, and the third one the fourth one, and so it is. After 100 matches, we have a ranking. We have user 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the next step of this pack is another user comes in and he is the best user ever. He just won. And in the minimal interactions possible, in this case 4 interactions, he plays against the second user 2 times and the first user 2 times. He's the first one on the ranking because he is the best. The thing here is you are measuring the real ability of a user in the last number of interactions possible. Every user have the ability to get on top if he gets better. This is an extreme example for a spec purpose, but imagine that this user have 100 player ranking and he would might in formats know exactly what his position would be and should be. I brought with me a little video showing how to set up Sigma. It's like 27 seconds. So all you have to do is I'm adding Sigma gem on gen file, running bundle, running a generator, Rails G Sigma. He will ask what will be your resource, in this case article, and he suggests a scale, in this case 50. What is going on right now, it's generating some migrations that are binding some new attributes to your resource, and this is it. It's installed. It's quite simple to use. You should not be afraid to give it a try. What it will do is it binds some new methods to your resource. The methods would be a rating method that will return the rating for the resource, the position method that will return the position of the resource, a match method that will return amount of match, winnings, loses, all those things, even draws. We have 2 trigger methods that will be won and lost. These 2 methods will trigger all this calculation to calculate the new user position. I have put into practice and developed a small application on the company that I was working on. It was called Code Pong. We had this ping pong table on the office and nobody wants to play it, so we decided to make it a little bit more competitive, and we developed this application to people just play against each other, challenge each other, and log in the results. And we started using Sigma to calculate in the ranking. What happens is everybody wanna play, and everybody wanna play for a reason. Everybody wants to play because everybody could show how they are getting better and how they were the best. So this is the thing. We are really giving the opportunity for the people to show how good they are and how to improve themselves and see this improvement on real life. The second thing is that productive got really slow and we started playing ping pong. But it wasn't a problem. Everything got on the usual track. And the important thing here is that if it happens to developers, it will happen to users too. All you have to do is give to your users the opportunity to show how skilled they are, how good they are, and how they can prove themselves using your application. and this is what it's about. So I'll just go a little quick review here. So first thing, it's all the possibilities that you have to implementing rankings and how it can add some value to your application. How relevance is one of the most important things right now in the world, together with time, and how algorithms can be useful. Not about ranking algorithms, but all kind of algorithms that you might use. Sigma, you should certainly give it a try. It's quite simple and helpful. I should not recommend it for production now. It's like an early version, but I'm really glad if you send pull requests and all this kind of thing. It's on my GitHub. And ping pong is really cool. I just would like to enjoy the opportunity here to talk about a brief talk about another open source project of mine. It's called Gyoko. It's a gamification jam. I have been working with gamification on the past 2 years in a lot of different conferences, as I said, and I developed this jam. I'll probably release an enterprise edition of it, but it's working really good. A lot of startups are using it. It have good coverage and a good note and code climate, so make yourself comfortable to check in. And this is it, people. Thank you. I might have some time for questions, I don't know. So if anyone...
You talked about Sigma that works for 2 people. Does it actually can calculate when you have...
True skill, it actually, this is the whole point about true skill. One of the advantages of true skill is that it supports teams match and illustrating the support. This is why it works well on chess players and not on the group mats, because it just works when you're one player playing against each other. But true skill not. As you can see, you can play Call of Duty and all this kind of stuff using true skill. What Microsoft did is they developed our internal ranking system, and they have this API that the games factory uses to mount their rankings. So it supports easily team match. The Sigma right now doesn't support yet, but I would like to add it. The thing is, he asked me about the algorithm here is just considering if it won or lost, not about the difference between the punctuation or performance and all this kind of thing. And actually, this is the a base for true skill. True skill does not take consideration if you have shoot on the red or if you have won from perfect match and all this kind of thing. There are other algorithms that might consider it, but true skill by itself does not take into consideration either ELO rating and either Sigma. But yeah, it's another approach. It might work in another algorithm. I don't know. Anyone? All right. Thank you, people. Have a nice day.